One question that I hear all of the time is selling flowers to florists actually a viable, profitable, possible sales channel for a flower farmer? In this video, I'm going to be giving you my honest answer and walking you through a few different scenarios and thinking, does this make sense or does it not make sense? Hi, I'm Ruth Ann from Abundant Blooms Flower Farm in Dorr, Michigan, where I farm on about an acre. I am going into my 7th year of flower farming, and my main focus sales channel is selling flowers to florists. That's pretty much what I do exclusively from my farm. I'm in zone 5B, 6A, and my frost-free dates are from mid-May until mid-October. I am also a mom of 5 children whom I homeschool, so life is very full in this season of life, and I've been building my business while having babies and farming and pregnancies and newborns and all the things. So to start out, I mostly just want to say that I don't think it's the actual sales channel. I have seen successful flower farmers sell only at roadside stands or sell almost exclusively to farmers markets, or they're a farmer florist model, or they sell to florists almost exclusively. I think that any one of those sales channels can be a viable option for a flower farmer, depending on what you want and where you live, perhaps, and your lifestyle. So I think any sales channel can fail also. I also know of 3 roadside stands that have closed, that have started, and I've seen the flower farmers and I've known them. And since I've been flower farming, they have also stopped selling, at the roadside stands and said, it's just not worth the time. I'm just not making any sales, things like that. So I don't think that it's just the sales channel. I think it's more of the approach and the how you're going about the sales channel. So here are things that I hear about selling flowers to florists specifically that farmers wonder if this is really going to work. One is they think that you have lower margins because you're selling flowers for less than you're selling retail. So you're not able to make as much money because you're not selling them for as much of a price. People think they can't charge what they're worth, or that florists don't come back and they're not repeat buyers, they don't order consistently, or that selling to florists is just too complicated. And that is true. This is a more complicated sales channel. This is more complicated than I'm going to go out on a Thursday and see what's actually blooming and looks good in my field. I'm going to harvest what looks good, make them into bouquets, and put them out on my roadside stand, post something on Facebook, send an email, and hope that they sell. This is a little more complicated than that because you have to predict your flowers and communicate availability, fulfill orders, deliver the flowers, and everything else that goes into it. So it definitely takes planning and communication and consistency. I'm going to just recap a little bit. In my first year of selling flowers to florists, I actually did a whole video about it. Don't worry, I'm not going to repeat myself here, but I sold to 3 florists that year, and I started in the middle of June when I had a great abundance of flowers and I had a planned season of growing and having consistent flowers, and they averaged about $100 an order. So if you say, okay, I had 3 florists, 18 weeks, $100 an order, that's about $5,000. Yeah, don't quit your day job on selling, $5,000 worth of flowers. However, that was my first year, right? And I was learning how to do all these things and communicate. I had 3 small children. I was pregnant with my 4th baby that summer. And so, yeah, no, this wasn't like a gangbuster year. So that was my first year. 3 small kids, pregnant with my 4th baby. So now let's fast forward. Let's think forward a year or 2. Let's deepen these relationships. Let's make those 3 florists 7 buying florists per week. Maybe that means that you have 10 and 7 of them are buying from you in a week. And let's say instead of $100 per order of an average order, you're getting $200 of an average per order. And let's say, because now you're a little more advanced and you're more on top of it, let's just be very conservative and say that you're selling for 20 weeks. So that would be $28,000 in the next season. Again, this is not magic. This is not rapid, massive growth. This isn't quit your day job and this is your farming full time doing this. But it is about relationship growth and sales growth and becoming a better farmer and being a consistent grower. And then you can have predictable sales once you have established relationships. And this is true for me. Like my average order is not $100 anymore. In 2025, my average order was like $212. And that goes anywhere from small pickup orders on my farm, which can be like $50, all the way to the florists that are buying from me every week for their brick and mortar shop, they're anywhere from like the $250 to $500 range. I have two florists that buy between $300 to $500 from me every week. And then, then there's the wedding and event florists that are kind of sporadic, or maybe you have one flower that they need and they're easily accessible on your route. And so you can easily drop off, $150 worth of flowers. So there's anything, or the wedding and event florists that are putting in, $1,000 orders in 1 week. So it's kind of the whole gamut, but the average is still for me right around $200 per order. So again, is $30,000 going to replace your day job? Probably not. Not where I live, not with 5 kids. But can it be a meaningful income to your farm? Absolutely. It absolutely can add a meaningful income to your farm. Could it supplement, if you want to stay home with your kids and your husband has a full-time job, like can it be an added income and allow you to get outside and get your hands in the dirt and start building a more substantial farm? Yes, it absolutely can be. Is it built overnight? No, it's not. It takes time and consistency and delivering, week after week after week. And yeah, so that was me in my second and third year of flower farming. I had been pregnant, so then I had a baby. So that was me driving around Grand Rapids with 4 little kids in the car every week, basically, and stopping in between, shops to nurse my baby. That's how this farm grew. And it grew slowly and incrementally and very intentionally and specifically. And I think that's why I'm still here 7 years later to tell the story and say, you can do this too if you do it in a sustainable, profitable, consistent way. This is not overnight success here. The next part of this is that flower farmers say that florists don't buy consistently from them, or they've tried to sell to them and maybe they've sold once or twice and they just do not come back as a repeat customer. I think that there's 2 reasons for this. One can be that you don't have good quality flowers. So hopefully you're figuring that out and getting really high quality flowers, harvesting them at the right harvest stage and doing proper post harvest care, because if your flowers are coming to them and they're not lasting, they're not going to want to continue to buy from you. The second thing is that there is an educational gap. And actually, as I continue in my flower farming journey, I am still sometimes surprised by what I hear florists that I've worked with for 5 years, that have been florists for 20 years, what they say that they didn't know. Sometimes I still am like, you didn't know that? Like, because to me, I know because I'm the farmer. So what don't they know? They don't know the seasonality of flowers. So they don't know when flowers are in bloom. They do not know what you can grow locally. Or they might know that you can grow one thing in one color, but they don't realize it comes in another color. So here's 2 very specific examples. One, I was talking with a seasoned florist, a wedding and event florist that I've sold to for several years. And I was telling her about Baptisia. And then I was saying how, yeah, I have this really pretty yellow one too, like a blue one and a yellow one. And she said, you have yellow Baptisia? I didn't know that it came in yellow. So it comes in actually all kinds of colors, right? But they do not know that it comes in anything except blue, because at the wholesaler, all they can get is blue. They can't get all these other colors that are cool and new to the plant breeding programs. Like, she had no idea it came in yellow. And yeah, so there's just an educational gap. So the second thing is, I was talking with a florist who's been a florist for 20 years, and I was telling her about raspberry greens, which are amazing, like so amazing. They're such rock star foliages. They last forever, like for weeks. They're super interesting texture, right? Like all things wonderful. And I showed them to her, and this was, I'm trying to think, I think 2 summers ago, and she said, raspberry foliage, and they're thornless. And she said, I've never seen that. I've never heard of that. And I said, yeah, just try it, take a sample and see what you think. She loved it because what is there not to love about raspberry foliage? And last season, she bought 6 bunches or more from me every single week that I had them in season and couldn't get enough of them. And then sometimes ordered even more for weddings. That is huge. If you can sell 6 bunches every single week of one foliage to a florist, to like think about how much that one florist is purchasing of this one product that you have and how valuable that is. And it was something that she had never heard about, never knew existed. That's just because they don't know what you have available locally because they're just used to what the wholesalers have. So they don't know. They don't know what saponaria is. They don't know that Baptisia comes in other colors. They can hardly source double snapdragons. Those are really hard for them to source. So just showing them what is actually possible locally and what great quality local flowers are, there really is a big education gap. And I don't think that this is talked about enough because you are in charge of, teaching your florists about this. So how would I suggest you do that? Pretty much like any interaction that you have with a florist, seek to be educating and teaching and saying things that you wouldn't even necessarily think. In emails that you send, if sending out a weekly email, I send out an email every single week to my florists. Same with like email marketing to retail, sending out a weekly email as a marketing strategy. I do the same thing for my florist. It's very professional, but I am telling what's happening and what's coming up on the farm, and I'm showing pictures of a product that's coming new into bloom. I am talking about different things, educationally, like I'm trying to put in little nuggets of things in a very professional way. So you always want to look at it as a partnership relationship, and you're, teaching them not in like a weird way, like you're so much better than them, but just in an educational way. And then likewise, I learn a lot of things from my florists. I learned a post-harvest trick for smoke bush and 9 bark from one of my florists, and she's bought a lot of local flowers always. And anyway, so she just knows a lot of stuff about that. And I was just observing her and I was like, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, I do this and this and this and this. And then they last for 10 days. I went home and tried it and put a vase of smoke bush in my house, stunningly just smoke bush by itself, and it lasted for like 15 days. So it was super super great. So you're like in this partnership of educating and learning, and but you do have to think of yourself as the educator to the florist and really understanding that that is part of your job. As part of your job is to educate the florist on what flowers you have, how to use them, what their vase life is, giving them samples, and just every opportunity you have teaching them, because most of the time they really want to know and they really want to learn. And that's why it's so important to bring extras on your truck if you have space and just showing them, because they don't know. And even in a picture, it's really often hard to communicate everything, what exactly it looks like. But when they see it before their eyes, they're like, oh, what is that? And you know they can't get enough of it. So the truth is, selling flowers to florists is not necessarily easy. I'm not suggesting that actually any sales channel is easy, because it might be easy to put bouquets out on a roadside stand, or in one sense easier than all the back end that goes into starting selling flowers to florists. But actually getting those bouquets to sell is also a lot of work. It takes a lot of marketing and a lot of strategy. And so I'm not trying to say anything negative or that that's easy and this is hard, but it's not automatic. It's relational and it takes time. It takes time to build your credibility. You're educating the florists and training them about local flowers. But if you do that and you have high quality flowers, you follow up, I think that selling to florists can become a very profitable and consistent sales channel, because you're having the same customers buy from you week after week after week, all season long. Remember that raspberry foliage, 6 bunches of raspberry foliage for as many weeks as I can deliver it, and even more sometimes, to one florist. That's a big deal. That is sustainable sales channel. And that's just one of the many things that she buys every week. So obviously, there's so much more to this sales channel than I could possibly dig into in this one YouTube video. And I have been doing a couple of videos about this, so you can check back on those. A couple of things. This is why I created a course all about this, because I can't give you all the resources here on YouTube. But it's also why I'm doing a free training, a free webinar on March 13th at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and it's called 3 Steps to Profitably Selling Flowers to Florists Without Feeling Overwhelmed. So come join me for that. It's going to be super practical. We're going to dig in deeper. There's going to be some time for some Q&A at the end of it. So if you're serious about making florist sales a viable part of your business, click the link to register in the description, and I will send you an email with all the information. And I can't wait to see you there. I've never done a live training before, so it's going to be really exciting. And come join the 100 flower farmers that are already signed up for it. And I can't wait to see you there. And if you enjoyed this video, I posted that video last week about how to get your very first florist sale. And I walk you through the exact steps that I went through to get started as well. So check that video out, and I'll see you in the webinar.